We just covered everything we know about the Code Veronica remake. Now it's time for its forgotten sibling, a game in the series that made some questionable decisions like not having a storage box, for example. But hopefully all that will be fixed in a remake that Capcom is hiding deep within their storage chest full of goodies. And they're not talking, so let's dig through what's left behind. Hop on the Ecliptic Express and allow me to be your train conductor for today's video.
Resident Evil 0.
It's May 27th, 2024, and this time we just got confirmation from Dusky in a tweet stating a remake of Resident Evil 0 in Code Veronica in development right now. I've talked to many others behind the scene about this at this point. It's something I heard over a year ago. Think it was going to get out whether I was the one to say it or not, and that's about it. Fans were ecstatic, and honestly, so was I. An entry that I have a love-hate relationship with. Finally getting a second chance, plus the fact that we'll get our hands on it very soon. But then things went static. Where is our news about the remake of 0 or even Code Veronica? Then this happened. John McLaren is most known for voice acting Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy video game. He also provided some voice work for Far Cry 5 as well. Sources reportedly close to the project he is working on most famously dubbed Project Chambers, the name that sparked the debate on the leaks regarding whether or not it was RE0 buried in his resume. And then poof, it disappeared quietly, like it was never there. This speculation drove fans to theorize that he's most likely the voice actor of Billy in the remake, also leading to even more speculation that it will bring a new set of cast. Of course, Project Chambers could mean anything, right? Oh, not exactly. Let's read a section on MP First article, some of the journalists behind the source of the casting. Additionally, this project is overseen by Beyond Capture Studios, a motion capture company that has previously collaborated with Capcom on games such as Resident Evil 4 Remake and Street Fighter 6. Taking into account that the actor is lead on the project, it's probable that John McLaren is the actor responsible for playing Billy Cohen, the co-protagonist of the original game alongside Rebecca Chambers. Yep, you heard it right here, SleepyGamerz. Beyond Capture Studios. Now, for those of you who don't know, Beyond Capture Studios, they're a Canadian performance capture company that provides high-end motion capture services for video games, films, and television. They've also done games such as Hogwarts Legacy, Mortal Kombat 1, Street Fighter 6, and yep, you guessed it, Resident Evil 4 Remake. Now, call me crazy, but when something walks like a zombie and groans like a zombie, it's infected. And this is infected. But I definitely think this adds up on my evidence board. But I also got another file to pin, because let's not forget that K2 and M2 is the studio behind Separate Ways, and RE4 DLC are reportedly attached to Resident Evil 0. Two independent sources, but both point to the same address. That's not coincidence, that's a pattern. I did a little research on how Resident Evil 0 Remake could definitely be happening, and there were definitely Easter eggs within Resident Evil Requiem that looks like a nod to Resident Evil 0. There was a wooden train set that players discovered that kind of looked like a nod to the Ecliptic Express from Resident Evil 0. There were new lore files in the game retroactively established the connections the Syndicate introduced in Resident Evil 0 that had a secret contact with James Marcus, the co-founder of Umbrella and primary antagonist of Resident Evil 0. These are definite patterns that we have to look at with our magnifying glass. The investigation board has one more file though, and this one is about what RE0 becomes. What would a Resident Evil 0 remake be like? Well, we have an idea. Going back to the investigation board of MP First article, in the plot and casting details, the paragraph for Resident Evil 0 reads, in terms of plot, the remake is expected to expand upon the source material, although the core story will remain the same. Another common characteristic of the RE remakes. Before continuing, we must warn you of minor plot spoilers. The following example details new edition of the remake, which is why we're refraining from sharing other major story beats that would give away too much. One of these new storylines would involve the initial segment of the game set on the train, specifically concerning the train conductor. In the original game, this character is never seen and is only referenced via his office on the train, but in the remake, he will take a slightly larger role. The article further reads, we can detail that one of the scenes involving the character has him asking Rebecca for the stop to the train's acceleration, only to end up betraying her by locking her in with a bunch of zombies so he can escape. Following this, we wouldn't see him again until reaching the later zone in the game, where Rebecca would find him interacting with another mysterious unnamed character who appears to have knowledge of the general situation and clearly plays an important part of the plot. Those familiar with the lore may already have an idea of who this mysterious individual could be, but will also be aware that none of these plot elements were present in the original game. Therefore, we should expect a more cinematic structure for the storyline. Interestingly, despite having all these details, everything indicates that we will still have some time until we see the remake. The character being described here aligns with one name, Dr. James Marcus, the architect of the T-Virus, the man who started everything. And if he's the centerpiece of this remake story, that's the right call. On the gameplay side, the intel points to a new opening, a tutorial sequence in the forest following the helicopter crash, along with fluid character swapping, reworked combat and exploration, and potential co-op. All of that sounds like the right direction, right? But here's where I plant my concern on the board. The same team behind Resident Evil 3's remake is reportedly involved, and based on the response on my Code Veronica breakdown, you all know how fans feel about this one. RE3 was divisive, and Resident Evil 0's inventory system was already one of the worst design decisions in the franchise history. We don't need those problems compounded, you know? What Resident Evil 0 needs, honestly, is the Resident Evil 2 treatment. Real horror with cinematic weight of Resident Evil 4 and Requiem. And while they're at it, fix that inventory completely. God damn it. Get that right and you have the perfect foundation for what comes next. The return of legacy characters, Chris, Jill, the connective tissue that ties the whole universe together. That's everything in the briefcase. The evidence is on the board. Now, I want to know, what do you want from Resident Evil 0 Remake? Drop it all in the comments below. If you find this useful, hit the subscribe button and ring that notification bell like it's an eyeball on a tyrant. And if you find this style of breakdown your cup of tea, the Code Veronica Remake investigation video is right here on the right, or if you want to find out more about Fallout roadmap, click this video on the left. All right, sleepyheads, count your sheep, catch your Z's, and go to sleep.
I'm Rebecca.